Here beside me. My wife and I love it when she goes.
So just before I bring David up to introduce our speaker, I just want to indicate that Anne and Ingrid have joined us online, so thank you. And I'll ask David to come up and introduce our speaker.
Thank you, John.
It is my pleasure this afternoon to introduce our speaker, Dr. Jared Wesley. Jared is Associate Dean of Education. That's a role that started on July the 1st. He's co-director of Peter Locke School of Politics and Democracy.
No.
Sorry. He's a professor, that's better, of political science and member of the Black Faculty Collective at the University of Alberta. He leads the Common Ground research team, which is examining the intersection of public opinion, political culture, and public policy in Western Canada. His career path has included several senior management positions within the Alberta government, including a director of intergovernmental relations, senior management of cabinet coordination, and director of learning and development. Jared is the author of the Substack Decoding Politics and has co-authored 3 best-selling books in Canadian politics. And I believe they're all listed right here. Jared is based in Edmonton, Alberta, where he is a lucky husband and proud father of 2 daughters. On a personal note, I'll also indicate that I've actually taken a class with Jared about 9 years ago. I actually thought it was less years, but he's, besides all of these accolades, he's actually an excellent instructor as well. So if you ever have an opportunity to take a political science course with Jared, go for it. Jared will speak today about the separation debate, and please join me in welcoming Dr. Jared Wesley.
On that note, anybody taking any courses through the Edmonton Lifelong Learners Association or ELA? Yeah, that's a good way to keep your whistle wet about things in the political sphere. And I think I'm on, although I have to audition to sing from the supper there too. Next summer or spring, I'll be teaching a course there on a lot of the things we'll talk about today. So you take me off campus, you take me away from my PowerPoint. I thought it was okay with this group if I just share some insights without any fancy slides. Is that okay? Yeah. Keeps it simple for everyone. So as David mentioned, I'm a political scientist at the U of A. I lead the Common Ground initiative. You can find out more information about us at commongroundpolitics.ca. Since 2019, our team has been fielding surveys and hosting focus groups from one corner of the province to the other. I think at last count, we're well up over 15,000 unique Albertans that we worked with. And lately, our work has been delving more deeply into the separatist movement. We've been attending rallies, tracking online networks, studying speeches, dissecting proposals being put before Albertans in advance of this fall's referendum. Full disclosure, I'm also a lead in the group Lead Not Leave, which is a center-right policy initiative aimed at promoting a better conversation about Alberta's place in Confederation. You can find some of our writings at our website, leadnotleave.ca. But beyond all of that, I think it's important for me to confirm that I am an Albertan. And I don't say that lightly. That's something that I used to say until quite recently. But many of us who are anxious about the trajectory of our province do have a difficult time identifying with our provincial roots. We're comfortable saying that we are from Alberta, but less comfortable saying that we are of Alberta. A few years ago, I celebrated my Alberta-versary, which is an actual word. The date at which I spent more time in this province than where I grew up. And around that time, I came to appreciate just how important it is to connect my tenure in this province to my own identity. Not because I think there's only one way to be Albertan, quite the opposite. I think Alberta desperately needs a broader understanding of itself. One that reflects the diversity within this province, and one that projects a confidence in that diversity to the rest of the world. So I'm going to close today by returning to that idea, sharing some stories I've collected along the way, common ground. In the meantime, I've been asked to speak to a couple of different questions. So the first question is, where is Alberta right now? Or as a lot of people say to me as they run into me in the street, what the hell is going on? And other people, in fact, a few of you, as I was coming in today, are asking me, should I be worried? Yes, you should. You should be worried about the future of your province. You should be worried about the future of your country. And what's going on? Actually, something quite new. Something quite new. I think we make a mistake if we think that this is just the continuation of generations worth of Western alienation. There's something quite new happening here, and I'll talk a bit about that. The second question that I'll answer is, what can Albertans expect to see in the coming weeks and months as the two sides start to pick up steam to the October 19th? And then lastly, how do we put it all together? And our team, certainly we're focused on October 19th, but I'm also just as worried about October 20th, because we're going to have to learn to get along, no matter what the outcome of those various referendums. So where are we? For those of you who aren't aware, and you would be surprised at the number of folks that are completely unaware as to what's going to happen this fall. Alberta is going to have a historic voting day on October 19th. On that single day, Albertans are expected to face at least 10 referendum questions. That's more than the entire rest of the history of the province combined in one day. 5 of those questions are on immigration, 4 on the Constitution. I encourage your group to delve into those ones on other days. I'm going to talk to you about the one on separation today. The separation question is not a simple remain or leave, as you might have seen in Brexit, or a yes or no, or we'll know, as you would have seen in Quebec in 1995. Instead, it asks Albertans to choose between option A, remain in Canada, or option B, begin the process of holding a second referendum on leaving. Now that wording is crucial. It's one of the many advantages that Premier Smith has handed to the separatists as part of this march that we're having to the October referendum. Polling suggests that Albertans, if they were faced with the opportunity to vote leave or remain, would be poised to vote somewhere in the neighborhood of 80-20 or 70-30 in favor of staying in Canada. But that's not the question before them. The question is, do you want to remain or do you want to continue the conversation? As we'll talk about, some separatists want to frame it as, do you want to remain or do you want to send Ottawa a message? Do you want to remain or do you want to stick up for yourself? Right? These are all ways of interpreting the question that the Smith government's put before us. And that softer question means that what used to be a 70-30 result could easily be 60-40, and depending on turnout, could actually go the other way. I can't highlight that enough. If the turnout is the same as it was in the last constitutional referendum we had on equalization, that was 40%. This is a coin flip. And that particular referendum was held in conjunction with a municipal election, which means that people had other reasons to show up to vote. At the doorsteps, I've talked to folks on both sides of this campaign, and they are shocked at how many people have no idea there's even a referendum happened, let alone 10 in October. Turnout is going to be key. And it's not simply a matter now of asking people to show up to vote. Like, this is a typical Canadian election where you get out, it's called a GOTV, or get out the vote campaign. Just make sure somebody has a plan to go out and vote on election day. If that's the way we're approaching this one, the separatists have a giant advantage, because federalists tend to be concentrated in areas where polling stations are, best of times, quite busy. Right? So I know in my polling station in Riverdale, it took me one time, I counted 93 seconds to go in and out and vote, because I chose my times deliberately. But in the last campaign, last municipal election, Took me well over an hour and a half because of changes to the way that we count ballots and distribute ballots and verify people's ID. And that was only when we had 3 or 4 ballots to cast. This time we have 10. Elections Alberta has posted 60,000 positions to help facilitate the work at the polls. That's more than a federal election across the entire country. And they're barely half the way there. If you're planning just to show up and vote on election day, I'm here today to tell you that might be the most selfish thing you can do. Because you're taking up space in line for people that don't know what I'm about to tell you, which is that you can vote early. You can vote by mail. It is safe. It is allowed, despite some of the disinformation that is circulating online. Request your mail-in ballot today. Just go to the Elections Alberta website, request it, or show up on an advanced polling. Those lines are also going. If you do not do that, you are occupying the space in line for people that don't know of those alternatives, and people who are more likely to show up, look at a line, and walk away. If it took you 15 minutes to vote in previous elections, this referendum will take you, and I'm not kidding, upwards of 2 to 3 hours. That's not a typical Canadian election. That's a typical American election. But it's not something that we're used to here. Now, Albertans are divided over this question. Won't surprise you to know that Liberals and New Democrats are almost, I think it's 95% are in favor of remaining in Canada. Whether they show up or not remains to be the question. And Conservatives are relatively divided. But we're not really divided on the core issues that are at stake. When we ask Albertans to identify with different communities, for example, we ask them how they see themselves. Only a small group, about 5%, identify as being Albertan only. Another 10% indicate that they feel that they are Canadian only and not Alberta. Everybody else, 85%, is some combination of those two. The vast majority of Albertans see themselves as both Albertan and Canadian. So this is not a province full of people who have abandoned Canada emotionally. We see that with some of the messaging from out of the separatist camp. You've noticed this since Canada Day. They've actually softened quite a bit. Some of their messaging is direct and saying you don't have to hate Canada to vote for option 2, right? To have another vote. It's because a lot of separatists, sounds counterintuitive, a lot of separatists have a deep attachment to Canada. Say that again. A lot of separatists have a deep attachment to Canada. It's an attachment to a Canada that they don't see today, and they don't foresee happening again in their lifetimes. But they're deeply attached to it. I remember there was one person who was posting on some of the separatist chat rooms that we monitor as part of our team. And they posted a picture of a Canadian flag that had rainbow colors on it, like the Pride flag. And this person posted simply, "This is why I want to leave Canada. This is disgusting." Okay, now let's leave aside the issues of 2S LGBTQ plus rights. But if we dig underneath that, this person still has an attachment to the flag. You still have an attachment to Canada. It's a very complex set of emotions that Albertans have. Another one that surprises a lot of people is that even if you want to stay in Canada, you're not particularly happy with the way that Alberta is situated within the rest of Canada. Now, this group here might be an exception. I also do not subscribe to the following view, but I can tell you, having done polling and focus groups in this province for the better part of the last decade, the following is the mainstream view. Across regions and classes and parties and ideological camps, doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right, what party you belong to, many Albertans feel that the province is not treated fairly by the federal government. That sentiment is changing under Mark Carney, but there's still a solid majority of Albertans who feel like Alberta is getting the short end of the stick. Some people express this alienation as anger and estrangement. Others express it as frustration and yearning. But looking at the entire population, I often describe the typical Albertan as the jilted lover of Confederation. Okay, separatists will tell you that we are the abused wife of Confederation. You actually see their honestly pretty disgusting memes depicting this for anybody that's encountered domestic violence. We're not abused, according to most Albertans. We're the jilted lover. There's a lot of unrequited love there. There's a strong sense of loyalty, a desire to be there for the rest of the country. But there's also that sense of unrequited love, a feeling that the rest of the family just doesn't understand us and isn't there for us when we need it most. There's a sense that Alberta can do more for Canada, but Canada just won't let us contribute fully because it doesn't understand or respect our own approach. Under all of this feeling, for a lot of Albertans, for the majority of Albertans, is a feeling of underappreciation. And yeah, a little bit of martyrdom. Being undervalued is part of Alberta's political DNA. I don't think we'll ever get rid of it. For separatists, I fear it's grown into a full-blown victim complex. But for mainstream Alberta, the sentiment, again, is one of feeling jilted, a desire to be more appreciated and understood, not to leave. Well, we've all been part of relationships like this, right? If you haven't, maybe you're the martyr. But that analogy, Alberta as the jilted lover, is very different from the one, again, that the separatists use. They talk about Alberta being abandoned, used, disrespected, and being acted upon violently by the rest of Canada. That is a dangerous mix of rhetoric. If you take a look at what happened on January 6th in the United States. Now, I raise that because a lot of you are going to be able to go and talk to people about this referendum campaign, and a lot of them will be feeling like this jilted lover. I challenge you to think about how that conversation is going to go. You have a jilted lover in your life and they come to you and they say, I just feel like I'm putting more in than I'm getting out. And you hand them a spreadsheet showing them all the things that you've given them, baby. Or you deny their feelings and emotions and say, it's a lot better here than it would be anywhere else. That's a ticket to the couch in most relationships, right? That could very well be the ticket out of Confederation if we're not careful. Now, I'm not for a moment saying that you need to cajole these people or buy into their emotions. You need to acknowledge them, but you don't have to buy into the narrative or the solutions the separatists have on. So what can we expect over the next little bit? I think let's start with the separatist side. The separatists have made it very clear that this is a very low stakes vote happening on October 19th. And if you folks don't show up, it doesn't really matter. All the better. In fact, one of their lead organizers, who were made nameless, was doing the math for everybody on Twitter, saying if we get a 40% turnout, we win. And he's right. They frame this as only a vote to have another vote or just a way to send Ottawa a message. There's also a bit of a bargaining argument that falls that you'll hear from them. If we don't give a strong yes or option B in this referendum, how will we ever force Ottawa to offer Alberta a better deal? Right? This is what I refer to as the signed ransom note strategy. Think about it, sign a ransom note, you give away all the leverage that you thought you had. But they're trying it anyway, and it seems to be resonating. A second theme you'll find is grievance, right? And you'll hear them use phrasing that we hear from the mainstream conservative movement, quite frankly, that Canada is broken and unfixable. There's no point sticking around. They'll also present the choice as a false either or, either we submit or we separate, either we collapse or we have freedom, either we remain humiliated or we choose prosperity. That framing leaves no room for any kind of gray area, compromise, negotiation, consensus, coalition building. Anything short of Alberta getting everything that it wants is seen somehow as a failure. We should really be a bit skeptical of those kinds of utopian promises. They describe an independent Alberta as one with lower taxes, better services, more control, no equalization, stronger prosperity, and no meaningful disruption to your day-to-day life. The Canada side, on the other hand, offers the status quo, which is bloody frustrating most of the time. Canada is hard to govern. There's no doubt about it. Federalists are left selling that. Right? I'll get to that in a second. And the hardest questions from separatists will simply be pushed aside, right? We got genuine questions about currency, pensions, borders, treaties, trade deals, citizenship, debt, assets, federal land, market access, all of these questions. And you'll be told if you start to raise them that you're simply what? You're simply fear mom by asking important questions. That's one of their essential moves in the coming weeks. Promise certainty on all of the benefits and vagueness on all of the costs. Those four things you're going to hear, as you got to anticipate them, are the vote is harmless, Canada is irreparably broken, independence is easier than federalism, and anyone who asks hard questions is just afraid of democracy. I think the strongest message from Federalists is one that we've put together as part of our group. Alberta is prepared to lead, not leave. Alberta has proven that we can lead in the past, and we can continue to do so in the future. When we do so, I think we need to avoid the obvious trap of sounding patronizing or threatening. Not everything that the separatists are talking about in terms of grievances are illegitimate. Some of them are legitimate, but they can be resolved within Confederation. But at the same time, we need to avoid appeasing separatists or pretending their claims are harmless. Right? We're going to have to challenge some of those separatist arguments directly, which is what Lead Not Move is doing. The notion that somehow a landlocked independent country would have an easier time getting a pipeline to the West Coast when we have a deal to build a pipeline to the West Coast right now is just beyond me. But something that we will be sticking up for. At the same time, I think Federalists fall into a trap if we campaign for the status quo, saying everything is fine and waving a Canadian flag is just simply not enough. Many Albertans do have real grievances. They may be exaggerated, exploited by separatists, but they can't be easily dismissed. Again, that jilted lover metaphor can come in handy when you're dealing with folks who feel jilted. There'll also be an important identity argument. I'll close on this. I think Federalists in Alberta cannot simply campaign only for Canada. They have to campaign to reclaim Alberta too. That means reclaiming the provincial flag, reclaiming the language of pride, faith, family, freedom, with a definition of what it really means to be Albertan within Canada. For too long, I think separatists have acted as though they own Alberta identity, and we've ceded it. The big flap over flags flying in supermarkets right now is probably a good example of that. They treated Albertan as if it means only angry, alienated, conservative, anti-Ottawa, and ready to leave. Federalists, moderates, progressives, newcomers, Indigenous people, rural Albertans, urban Albertans, and everyone else who belongs here needs to step up and reclaim that identity. Okay. So I'll share just with you one final story that brings this home for me. As I said, our team has been traveling around the province to different rallies. I remember there was one in October at the legislature. It's the largest one ever. It's about 5,000 people there to hear separatists tell her there was some 20 or 30,000. It's 5,000, far fewer than the teachers' strike. But as I'm walking back, I noticed I was wearing this button. And it's a simple button, and it said, I am Albertan, and it had the Alberta flag in the back. And I'd gotten it from one of the separatist organizers there, who was kind enough to give it to me. I'm walking back to my bike. Hint number one, I'm probably not a separatist. I did not dissuade some people from downtown Edmonton from whispering as I'm walking by. I was a separatist. I finally caught this one young couple who was whispering because they saw my button. And I said, I'm actually not a separatist, right? But I am an Albertan, and I'd like to be a prouder one someday, wouldn't you? And we had a good conversation, about 15 minutes, about how we have this knee-jerk reaction to seeing an Alberta flag flying from the back of a pickup truck in particular. The same type of reaction that a lot of us felt during the convoy when we saw the Canadian flag waved like that. Okay. These symbols are ours. We are Alberta. And the vision of what it means to be Alberta is far more diverse than the separatist movement lets on. Separatist movement succeeds, by the way, they will confront that reality head on as they try to govern a province. We're no longer having the distraction of some menace in Ottawa to blame all of our problems. But let's not give them that. Let's fight for what it means to be Albertan now. Let's pick up our Canadian flag, yes, but let's carry that Albertan flag too. Federalists in Quebec know this. They came to that conclusion very late in the 95 campaign as well. Anybody remember the Montreal rally, the closing days? That was a sea of blue and red. That's the way I think we find our way forward on October 20th. In the lead up to it, I think it's an important part of winning the campaign, but in the aftermath, I think we need to be a little bit more inclusive when we talk about what it means to be Alberta. But those are my thoughts so far. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Thanks.
Questions? Yes.
You mentioned a couple of times that Albertans have real grievances. In your following of the chat rooms, are you getting any feeling for that the voters have an understanding that many of those grievances have been manufactured by the UCP?
Well, so the question for those online was, are you getting the sense that the folks that have these grievances are finding they're manufactured by the UCP? The manufacturing started long before the UCP. But yeah, I would say though that
I should maybe clarify. There are federal business grants that our provincial government prevents us from getting to.
Oh, yeah.
There are healthcare monies that our provincial government actively impedes municipalities from accepting from the federal government. So in this feeling that Alberta is actively being jilted, are they aware that it's our provincial government that is jilting us?
No. But to your broader point, a lot of these grievances that they have are the result of some pretty intricate trade-offs. Right? So separatists will often talk to you about how we need more seats in the House of Commons. Because that's the only way that Alberta can have more clout on the national stage. Right? And when you go to them and say, actually, do you know who's the most underrepresented province in the House of Commons?
Yes.
It's Ontario. So if we want to apply that formula strictly, that will mean, yes, Alberta gets more seats, but Ontario will get even more. Right? And there are these trade-offs involved. My team and I wrote a piece on equalization, which is the bugaboo, right? Of that's the original sin of Confederation as far as they're concerned, despite the fact that Alberta received it when we were building our oil and gas industry. But the trade-off for equalization is actually more autonomy for Alberta. And they don't get the trade-offs that are involved in them. And it sounds counterintuitive. Why would we send money to build hospitals in Halifax or schools in St. John, New Brunswick? Right? And we make the case to them on a couple of levels. First of all, it's a heck of a lot cheaper to have New Brunswick teach somebody from K to 12 and have them move out here and work in Alberta than it would be for us to do it ourselves. And by the way, aren't we complaining we have too many people here anyway? Right? But secondly, if we didn't have a robust system of equalization, if we were like the United States in that regard, there'd be far more centralization. Ottawa would be called upon by a lot of people in other parts of the country to develop national programs that are currently in provincial areas of provincial jurisdiction. This isn't a hard argument to make. It takes longer than 30 seconds. But the folks that read through it actually get the sense, this is important, the grievance is real. But it's not as if the separatists are the first ones to come up with this, right? And actually the trade-offs for equalization in these other programs are quite good for Alberta. The other one that's often mentioned is, getting on your point, but the calculation that we send out billions of dollars more than we get back in federal programs and services. And part of it, you're right, is because we're saying, no, we don't want federal dollars here, right? But the other part of it is this. Do you know why we send more money out of Alberta than we get back in program services?
Because we earn more.
Because we earn more. In fact, 75% of that gap, 75% of the gap between what we send out and what we get back in tax dollars is because we're richer. So if you really want to fix that problem, We just simply need to be poorer, and the separatists actually do have a good plan for that.
So people who work here don't necessarily retire here, so
Right.
we're paying for services now that we'll use in BC.
Yeah.
We'll use
Sure, yeah,
elsewhere.
but again, I wouldn't lead into that conversation with, here's everything that we get back. You start with, yeah, I get it, it's bloody frustrating, isn't it? But here's the flip side of that. And what I often tell folks that are in the separatist camp, what are you willing to give up? Right, so if we're gonna go down this plan, and eventually there'll be a yes vote to leave, then we'll have to sit down, one seat at one end of the table against 10. You'll have your list of demands, sure, but what are you willing to give up? They don't have any sense of what compromise is, because an independent Alberta gets everything that it wants. It gets a pipeline to Tidewater. What is that gonna cost you? What are you willing to give up? Right? Back to equalization, and we'll go on to another question. I mean, the reason why equalization got put in the Constitution, part of the trade-off, was that provinces would have constitutional protection of their natural resource powers. So as Jason Kenney was rolling out his equalization referendum, I was saying, okay, if you're gonna go and seriously negotiate to remove the equalization principle, are you ready to put up natural resource control? Because that was part of the deal. And federation is complex. Like the metaphor it's often used is a Gordian knot. There's a bunch of different trade-offs that have been made all along the way. And the fact that Alberta is still the most prosperous province by far suggests we win from a lot of those bargains. So if you want to start untying the knot, sure, but be prepared to start paying back in other areas. Okay, sorry, one off. Other questions or thoughts? Yes, we'll hear it then.
Yeah, is it too much to expect the general population to grasp all these nuances that you're talking about? You know, like, if they simplify things and saying, oh, you know, we're screwed. We get screwed on equalization. They don't, you know, it's quite an education from someone like yourself to explain to them. So is that just too high an expectation for people to understand?
Yeah, I think you have to boil it down for them in real terms. So one of the ones that I use a lot, which is daring in a conservative province, so what's conservative province, is so Alberta deserves equalization dollars. Does that mean Sam Cates or any other billionaire in the province is entitled to social assistance? Like, this is wealth distribution. Every system has wealth distribution in some way, shape, or form. You may not like the fact that Quebec uses it to do certain things, but it's a system of wealth distribution. Is that not fair at some point? I think, you know, I found this because my team goes into social media conversations and starts to try to dissect it. You can get people to at least give up on that line of argument, right? And that might be where we land, right? Our team is talking a little bit about how we need to re-marginalize, not the people. This is important. We don't need to re-marginalize separatist followers. We need to re-marginalize separatist leaders and separatist ideas, because it's distracting us from addressing a whole bunch of other things. One of the ways we can do that is to talk now. Yes.
What is included in the income calculation? Is it personal income?
Yeah.
Is it personal and corporate?
Yeah.
Okay, so what corporations are excluded from the calculation? Because I keep hearing people say that Quebec Power or whatever they call it is not included.
In equalization. Yeah. And our team has come up with some pretty simple and elegant solutions to the equalization formula, but it's not to throw out equalization entirely. Right? And we have had changes to equalization formula periodically throughout history. Yeah. Yes, okay, so.
We hear that they've talked to people in Washington. Do you have any comments about what the separatists in Washington and how all this fits together?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there when they talked with State Department officials. I think that the separatists thought it was a higher level meeting than what the State Department thought it was. I take Ambassador Huckster at his word for that. But they are playing with fire, and that's why they've actually have backed off from talking about their connections with the United States, because they know it's deeply unpopular in Alberta. Get this, only 1 in 5 committed separatists. These are 1 in 5 of the 20% that really want to leave. There's about 20% that really want to leave, and of those, 1 in 5 want to join the United States. So even among separatists, the United States is not a viable or desirable option. And so a lot of federalists, some of the campaigns that I've seen are going to be leading straight into that and playing up the connections between separatists and the Americans. I think that's a genuine worry, right? I think it is naive to think that an independent Alberta would somehow be independent in the geopolitical world that we live in. Right? I mean, the Americans through the Heritage Foundation released a paper a few weeks ago where they talked about turning the oil sands into the United States strategic oil reserve. Like it's right there on paper. These are the same folks that wrote Project 2025. Like these are the folks that have the ear of the Republican establishment. Now, just in case you don't know what that means, I mean, being the American strategic oil reserve doesn't mean that the taps are turned on all the time and we benefit from a world of prosperity. No, they get turned on whenever the hell they want turned on and turned off when they don't need us. That's the other part here is that the Alberta advantage has seeped into the psyche of generations of Albertans to inflate the exceptionalism to the point where they think everybody needs them. I'm using them now. We think everybody needs us. And part of that's human nature. We think we're more important than what we are. The reality is the last 2 decades worth of geo and petropolitics mean that the Americans don't need our oil nearly as much as they did before. That's not nearly the bargaining chip that separatists make it out to. And that's why, by the way, the Carney government isn't openly talking about turning off the taps as part of this trade dispute, because he knows it's actually not a big piece of leverage. Yeah.
Most of our ideas come from the reports that we have in the newspaper, radio, and everything else. But none of them have a rebuttal to it or anything else. How do we solve that? You're in the know, and you know if something comes up, you have an alternative. There's a balance or whatever else. We don't seem to have that in the newspaper or the reporting, do we?
No. That's a whole other talk about the denigration of the Alberta news media. I think there are some that are trying their best. They're mostly independent news outlets that are doing this. I'd say though, I give the line a try. So if you're connected and plugged in online, read theline.ca. Has some really good pieces. We have a piece coming out as part of Lead Not Lead where we talk about here's what you expect from the separatists. I highlighted a few of those things. You're going to need to go independent with it though. You can't trust Post Media to do it. CBC just does not have the resources to do it. Yeah.
There's a web piece up right now that I found useful to give to people that are kind of wondering how they wandered their way through all this stuff. And it's called Know the Nine.
Yep.
And know is spelled K-N-O-W with a particular emphasis on the N-O in the middle of the word. So Know the Nine. And it's kind of interesting what they've done. They took each one of the questions, take a look at what some of the subtleties are in the wording of the question, some of the ways of reacting to the question, and then they make a very strong recommendation that you vote no.
Yeah.
So it's the partisan content is clear,
Yep.
but the thing is, it's a fairly straightforward.
Yep.
Cut through all of the real information that surrounds all this.
Alberta's Voice.ca is the group behind that one. So Alberta's Voice.ca is one website. Another one that's really interesting, referendum
Yeah.
2026, but referendum with a B. They've actually enlisted a number of experts to make sure that they have their material is accurate. I found it quite accurate. Yes, we don't have time to go into the other 9 questions today, but those have been designed for a very different purpose.
So one last question.
Jared, I'm curious, based on your tour through the province over the years, given the amount of net migration into the province, are those individuals coming into the province absorbing some of the psyche? Like, because I'm curious about why we don't see more pushback through that realm, because if they didn't grow up, they don't have more years as an Albertan versus another jurisdiction or country.
Yeah.
Perspective on them?
Yeah, people who have lived here less than most of their lives.
Hmm.
Tend to not support separatism at all, whether they're from abroad or whether they're from the rest of Canada, so that part of it's true. In general, though, we find that people that move to Alberta tend to seek the Alberta advantage. So they're self-selecting into a political culture that they like. And that's the same when people have the opportunity or want to move, right? They're gonna choose a place that seems to match their values. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Good, okay, Sean. Thank you, Jared. First of all, you attracted full house. I don't know about others, but I thank you. I feel so much worse now.
Well, John, can I 20 seconds? There are things you can do, okay? So first thing, get people to get out there and get their ballots early. Okay, that's number one. You can order your ballots online. They are completely safe. If anybody has any concerns about mail-in ballots, I'll stick around. I'll talk to you about how they are safe. Number two, Elections Alberta needs workers. I'm looking at all of everybody in this room. Federalists in particular are not taking up the call. Separatists are. They're gonna be there at polling stations. So get out and make sure that you're there helping to keep the lines shorter in any way that you can on election day.
What are they doing about scrutineers?
That's a question I'd have to defer to Alberta or to Elections Alberta.
Because I hear that it's not like an election where there are parties identified.
Right.
Which is the normal way of collecting scrutineers, and I have no idea how they're gonna do that.
So I also feel challenged, so thank you. I think this was illuminating, and we will continue to be following what you are saying, some of the sources you provided, because this is pretty crucial to our future. So, Al isn't here, but I do want to spend a moment on foundation. First of all, the history started with 2650 was in the International Fund in 1917. The goal for 2027 is to achieve 2,027,000 in the district. So, as part of the broader 2,027,000 initiative, that's what I recall. So that is coming for 2027 as the target. Want to ask Bruce to come and do a Paul Harris.
Thank you. Thank you, President John. Yes, I like to, this is a nice thing about Rotary, we celebrate, usually we celebrate new members. And we also celebrate those members who achieved another level of the Paul Harris Fellow. So I'd like to call on Ken Brander to come forward. Ken took a little sabbatical from us for a number of years. Got reinstated in July, but during that time, he still contributed to the foundation. And when you contribute $1,000 US to the Rotary Foundation, whether it be Polio Plus, the annual fund, disaster relief, once you achieve $1,000 US, you're given a Paul Harris. As you add $1,000 going forward, you add another sapphire to your pin, to your Paul Harris. So actually, as of now, Ken is now going to receive his Paul Harris +5. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Ken, thank you, Bruce. Jackie. Speaking of Polio Plus,
Yes, thank you very much. Can I speak from here?
I'll bring this to you.
I have a gift for you, President John. Our polio moves. Keep him close over the course of this year. We have made outstanding progress as Rotarians. I think we should be so proud. Once polio is eradicated, it will be only the second disease that has been eradicated. I just want to give you just a few numbers. We have 18 cases, 3 in Pakistan, 15 in Afghanistan. And Pakistan is pretty much a sure thing. I think we're going to be out of Pakistan. The government at all levels have committed to immunization. But just a few numbers to be proud of. As Rotarians, we have immunized 3 billion children. And Rotary has raised over $3 billion for polio eradication. 21 million children have been saved from the paralysis of polio, and 1.6 million lives have been saved. This is our Rotary's #1 priority, and I hope we can keep it right in the forefront. Thank you, John.
At the Rotary International Conference, they made it really convention in Taipei, they made it really clear this is #1. We're not gonna talk about anything else until it's done. Although there is a mechanism in place to choose the next thing, but this is it, polio plus. I think we're not gonna move off polio plus. Brad, what have you cooked up for us?
Okay, fine, master. Okay, today we're gonna deal with geographic shapes. Each one of these things is a shape, and within those shapes, there's other shapes. So some are easy, some are challenging. Therefore, no tuning fines for getting it wrong. Right answer should make you feel good because you're so smart, should be a happy buck, right? Wrong answer, 1 happy buck because the fine's so low, you must be happy, right? However, Jim, $2 fine for answering out of turn. And yes, can play, but they don't have to pay, right? Starting with our, I'll give you an example. I'll give you a shape and that person will have to guess what it is or tell us what it is. Answer Canada. Okay, so it's not too complex.
Oh, I thought that was my question.
Here's your question. This is a Central American country, John.
Belize.
Correct. Okay. Jared.
Oh, gosh.
Come on.
Oh, yes. Nova Scotia.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you.
Wayne. Southeast Asian country.
That's Malaysia.
Close. Vietnam.
Okay.
Liz. US state.
Oh.
Hey. $2. Yeah. Hawaii. David, Central American country.
Guatemala.
Oh.
Very, very good. Guess #1. Canadian province.
Consider out.
Very good, very good. Wendy. North American country.
Country?
Yeah. You got it. Very good. Crystal?
Oh, Australia.
Yeah. Jerry? Oops, hang on. Canadian province. New Brunswick. Annie. The country, actually, it's a protectorate. Greenland. Yeah, country.
Oh, man, I have no idea.
That'd be New Zealand. Okay? Mina. That's a European country.
Wesley.
They're supposed to be the language. We're happy from there.
Yeah, she's in France.
By 7, it's in France.
Sorry?
Is it France?
Yes, it is. Very good, very good. Next. A US state. Mhm. Very good, very good. Okay, we'll start with Art, go around that table. Art. European country.
I think it's probably Italy.
Very good.
Oh, good boy.
Dewar. The US state.
I don't, go ahead. No, I know.
Okay, that'd be Idaho. Okay, Bruce. European country.
Good question. Oh, looks like Netherlands.
Very good, very good. Next. Canadian province. Quebec. Okay, Penny. The US state. Very good.
Got it. That's it right.
Jim, South American country.
Chile.
Very good. All right, over to Ben.
Well, you got that quick.
Central American country. Excellent.
Oh.
Yeah, very good. Myrna. Oh, shit. Pardon my-
Oh, shoot, comes on my ass.
I'll give you another one. There we go. European country.
Big step close.
That's a big one. That'd be Russia. Canadian province, Vic.
There you go.
Very good. European country, Ed.
Spain.
Yeah, that's, yeah, to the left there is Portugal. Jackie. US state,
California.
very good. Guess number 2. Country, South America.
Can't see the whole map. Argentina?
Close. Brazil. And next, a US state.
Alaska?
Very good, yeah. And Daryl, Asian country.
China.
Very good. Okay, might have a few left here. US state. Yep. South American country.
Argentina.
Very good. Middle Eastern country. Speak it out, huh?
Jordan or Israel?
Israel. That's all.
Well done, Fred. Anybody else? So just looking ahead, we've got another full month for August, full of activities. We started off, as we saw, with the tackle hunger. Today's meeting, Daryl White has on Wednesday, the 7 p.m. social D-spot dessert. For those, you could drop in, you don't need to pre-register. We've got our board meeting, and our board meeting is now in Gary Smith's boardroom, so we're kind of returning to our Rotary roots. Rotary booth at Alexander First Nation on the 20th, a chance to talk about Rotary. They have asked that question, what's Rotary? The ID clinic, I think, is now moving to the 26th. This is an opportunity to help Indigenous people in particular to acquire IDs, some of which may be important this fall in October, but for other events as well. We have Karen Murchak and who else is coming? Colleen? Charlene?
What's the last name? So, from St. Albert.
Okay, they're coming to talk about Rotary Exchange. And on the 24th, there will be a Zoom meeting with Ron Lehman. It's the 150th anniversary of Treaty 6, and he will be talking about Treaty 6. He is a knowledge keeper, and this is hosted by the District 5370 Indigenous Committee. It also will be a Zoom running right across Canada. Just if you have items and things that you think should be considered by the board, please talk to directors. As I say, Gary has volunteered his boardroom. We will be talking about some new members. We will talk about a club contact for the vision and action. So if you're interested in that, come and talk to me. We'll be also talking about how do we contact partners for a significant impact investment. We put aside some money for a large impact investment. How do we contact and sort that out and choose those? And we'll also talk about honoring some partners with Paul Harris Awards. We have some Paul Harris credits. How do we honor the people that are important to us through that process? Again, opportunities, encourage you to work with the director if you have areas there. As we sort through projects, useful to have people speaking into that. If you haven't seen the Rotary West bingo card, we can get you this by the end of the year. And I think Jackie has volunteered a prize a dinner. Yeah. You thought I'd forgotten? Or talk to Berna about microloans. And if you have a speaker or a partner or project to recommend, please bring those forward. This is your club. That's what we're doing. Anything else for the good of Rotary?
Mention about the September 14th meeting.
So September 14th, we will be meeting over at the Aviation Museum. We will need to register people ahead of time for numbers, for food, for other things. So that will be coming out fairly quickly. The 28th of September, we're looking at doing that as an evening meeting so that we can have the other volunteers from Guatemala to come and talk about the Guatemala. It will be a full business meeting. It is not our fundraiser, which is going to be in the spring. Thank you, Mark. So together we make an impact, together we advance positive peace. We are guided by the 5-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, with me, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Will it be fun? Thank you all. Thank you.
Yeah, this has, they'll slow down a bit. So. Okay. Great, John. See you again. Thanks, Steve. Thanks,
Meet every second.
Okay, we're there in minutes, like, yeah, we have to use it. Yeah.
Well, I don't.
And it was,
Yeah.